So I'd like to take a minute and define just a little bit more depth behind the I, the we, and the it. And then I'll give you a chance to think about what does this feel like to you, okay? So with the I, again, thinking about your role. For right now, I'd like to tap into our shared experience here, role of the facilitator of learning. Many of us deliver the Vital Smarts product, so our job is to create a learning space and make that happen. So a couple key things to keep in mind, and this isn't new to any of you, and I'm sure you do this as a matter of course, but it does help me give myself a touch point almost to recognize, am I staying within the kind of boundaries of the role that I believe I ought to have? So it's things like guiding the group's learning, okay, focusing on the process as well as the content. Now, what's the key word in that sentence? Guide, right? So as a facilitator, I'm guiding, I'm making it easy, so I'm creating that, making that happen. And a big piece of that, as we all know, is creating a safe environment for learning to occur. Okay, so my role is to make sure that it's okay to explore and to push and to question, that sort of thing, okay? I think even more important than in some other scenarios, okay? So creating that safe environment. And stimulating discussion. We want to make sure the group is talking to one another, so my job is to help make that happen, to be a catalyst for that. Okay, and think about ways that I can do that, to get them talking to each other, to get them answering each other's questions. Okay, and then, of course, modeling the principles and skills that we're teaching them. They're watching us. When we're in that role and we're putting ourselves in that role of their guide, they're watching how we're doing it. So I always have to kind of reflect and assess, how am I doing with that? Am I really modeling the skills in a way that I want to see them in action? Now, the last bullet here is what my role is not. Okay, my role is not to be the expert, have all the answers, be the authority figure, and be their teacher. I really try to watch personally for that boundary. I don't want to give long lectures. I don't want them to always defer to me and what my opinion about some of this stuff is. So when you think about your role, it's what I do and what I don't do, what I am and what I'm not, okay, as it relates to the context of whatever it is you're trying to facilitate. Okay? This next part is the harder part, don't you think? This is start looking at myself. What are my own kind of issues and needs? Perhaps I have a need to be liked, or I want people to think I'm great, or I want to, be looked up to, or be considered the expert or the smartest one in the room. And being aware of some of our own needs, issues, concerns around that is important because we want to be able to manage them. It's not bad to feel that way. It's not bad to want to be liked, or to be the smartest one in the room, or anything like that. It's when does it start getting in the way? When does it start getting in the way of the group's work and the group's journey towards their own outcome? So being able to first look in and be honest with yourself, start with heart, all of that, be honest with yourself, and then keep it in check and manage it the way that you want to. So what do I really want, right? What am I really trying to do here? Be the greatest facilitator they've ever seen, or help them really learn some skills that can change their lives for good? Okay, so that's a constant iteration. The other piece about myself and recognizing my own stuff is challenging my own comfort zone. I mean, we've all been in the position, right, where you're thrown a really challenging curveball, you're not sure how to handle it, you're kind of put on the spot, or there's some really uncomfortable issues going on in the group, and it makes us nervous. So recognizing your own comfort zone, do you tend to go to silence or violence, avoid conflict, take it on, be ultra direct, and then recognize, how can I step out of my comfort zone in service of the group? And that's a hard one. I'm challenged with that all the time. But keeping in mind, where am I coming from? And I don't want to get in the way of the group. I guess that's the bottom line. Okay, so how can I challenge my own self so that I can serve the group in that way? And then, of course, being authentic with my own successes and failures. And I don't mean here just the great stories that we tell about our own experience using some of these skills and where we've maybe blown it or had a wonderful outcome. But sometimes in the moment, like in that facilitation experience, we maybe don't do the best job, or we missed an opportunity, or we blurted something out that maybe we probably shouldn't have. And how do we address that, own that, and again, model that authenticity? Okay, so that's the I, when you think about all the nuances behind that. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about the we. This one I think many of us are very comfortable with, we're very skilled at, and there's a couple of things just to kind of pinpoint here. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Tuckman's model of group development. The forming, storming, norming, performing? Yes? Okay. So the challenge here, I think, especially in a training environment, is to think about, how does that play out even when I'm with a group for 4 hours, or 8 hours, or 16 hours, and recognize that they will grow and change and open up, and they will go through these stages. They might look a little different than a T group or something like that. They'll look a little different as they show up, but yet they still will happen. So informing myself around that is important for two reasons. One, we want to be able to recognize that you can't push people too fast, right? They have to form, they have to acclimate themselves to the group, they have to know what we're doing, who's here in the room with me, before they're going to put it all out there. Okay, so there has to be that forming stage that allows that comfort level. The other piece why it's important is to think about ways you can accelerate that. Okay, how do you accelerate that in your 4, 8, 16-hour experience with them to get them to the place where they are really creating a learning environment? So they go through the storming where it's okay to have a different opinion or to disagree or to think that wasn't handled well and manage through that so that it get to that place of some high performance as a learning community, even in 4 or 8 hours. Okay, so keeping that in mind as you think about noticing what's going on with the group. And then, of course, the observation process. So what is happening in the group? Are you tuned into the energy? Are you watching for some nuances, both verbal and nonverbal? And for me, I look for patterns. If I see something interesting happen over there, I'm like, that's interesting. Kind of file it away. Keep going, don't have to do anything about it. And notice it again. And then it happens over here. And then I'm starting to think, what's going on here? And then what do you think my next question is? What's my role in the problem? Oh, dang, yes. That could be a very good question. And what am I going to do about it, right? Am I going to do anything about it? So it's kind of the opportunity to intervene as necessary. Okay, so the thing about intervening as necessary too, part of this is also asking is, why am I intervening? Sometimes I notice something going on and it's just bugging me. It's bothering me. I'm the one who's irritated by it. But then if I sort of keep this in mind, I'll say, okay, well, it's bugging me that this is going on, but is it getting in the way of the group? Do they seem bothered by it? Are they still engaged? Are they still? So maybe it's my issue here. So I have to make a choice. If I'm going to intervene in some way, whose purpose am I really serving here? Whose needs am I serving? Okay, so looking for those opportunities to intervene in a way that's going to move the group towards its goal, because ultimately that's what you're there for. And this is the connection with the I in your comfort zone. Sometimes it's hard to do that, to step in and address those issues. But again, what are you really after in the long term? It helps to put those things together. Okay? And then finally, the content, the material. This is where we want to make sure we're managing the content, again, towards that outcome. So where we're tailoring, customizing, tapping into the needs of the group, either in the moment or in preparation mode. You know the kind of participants that'll be coming to your facilitation experience, so how do you tailor, customize, thinking about organizational culture, thinking about time constraints. So it's all about managing the it, so that the it is as successful and effective as it can be towards the ultimate outcome there. And as we think about messing around with the it, it's recognizing the purpose behind the strategy. So if we want to change this or move this or shortcut this, how will that impact the overall goal? So it's keeping that it kind of in hand as well as the other two pieces. And obviously, continuous improvement, right? So we make some adjustments, we see how it's working, we kind of manage the I, the we, and the it around content too.